Hello, 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 and welcome to Flaw Media. It is time for some r/RPG horror stories. My name is Carl Cutler, aka Flaw, and in today's episode, oh my god. Okay, so the DM doesn't fully understand stats. The DM kicks out the player that freaking is trying to help, and then starts talking about things that probably shouldn't be talked about. So if you would like some more craziness of this variety, please subscribe and let's get into this. This story is titled DM Doesn't Understand How Stats Work, kicks player who tries to explain, and then starts going into detail about his recent procedure. It was posted by u/salami. By far the most bizarre D&D encounter I've ever had in my life. This was over a year ago. I'd been in an online game which had ended due to the DM and most players moving on in their lives. Engagements, full-time jobs, promotions, etc. And no longer having time to play, I missed playing. So I took to finding a new online game. I found one with an interesting premise. This is relevant. A post-apocalyptic sort of setting, lots of homebrew. The only remaining civilizations were those which were built high above the ground, suspended by magic, and had no direct access to the ground to keep the monsters away. The basic hook for the party we were a team assembled by the city to go investigate and distribute a disturbance on the surface world. I had an idea for a character who was one of the survivors from the surface. They typically weren't allowed access to the cities due to fears they were tainted by whatever magic had corrupted the ground. I thought he could be hired by the city to meet and accompany the party on the ground, as he would be the only one with any knowledge of what they were getting into, and would provide useful information to keep them alive, basically acting as a guide. The DM liked this idea, however, he asked me to set my character's intelligence incredibly low. While I don't mind having a negative modifier, I was going to have an 8 or 9, I forget. This was just unplayable. However, he was new to D&D, and I realized he seemed to think intelligence scaled to the level of education you would have had. So somebody who never went to school, only learning a few things here and there from the older generations, would have an extremely low intelligence. However, there was no reason my character wouldn't have known basic math, i.e. needing to divide up supplies, or how to read simple text, i.e. instructions. It was getting late for me, so I told him not to finalize my character and asking him to pick up the conversation the next day, figuring I'd explain then. Okay, I'm gonna pause right here and put in my little couple of cents. Okay, so the basic math, that makes a lot of sense to being able to know basic math, because you could innately come across that. But reading might not necessarily be a guaranteed thing. And in generally any capacity, reading is such a, that requires a level of time and dedication and education and all that stuff. And not only that, you would clearly, if there could be different levels of reading, like there's a difference between the surface world and the upper cities and stuff, so they could have two different reading languages, right? And I would understand you being able to read, your stuff, but not necessarily their stuff. I could see that conflicting. But I don't think it's unplayable to not be able to read and write. But if the notion is your character's going to be used as a guide, I don't understand the reason to necessarily do this. Let's see if we'll find out. Okay. A similar thing happened with another player and a different stat, I think strength, but when she tried to properly explain, he got fed up and banned her for trying to make a game-breaking character. When I saw that she'd been kicked from the server for that reason, I assumed she was trying to make an OP character, Mary Sue. I'm the main character type build. Character creation was done in private messages. I only found out later when she messaged me. The following evening, me and the DM get back into call. Before we get back to stat talk, I mentioned how I might have been getting dental surgery soon and would miss a session. He then began to talk about his own recent surgery in all the gross detail. The infection, the pain, what it looked like, how he didn't rest properly after and injured it again. You get the idea. But I don't want to get the idea. Oh god. I never did get to explain stats to him, as I was so disgusted I left the call, left the server, and blocked him. From what I know, he kicked another player for being annoying the next day, and I believe the rest left shortly after. Also, he was stupid enough to make his Discord the same as his personal socials, which I discovered looking him up out of curiosity after, purely to see who the hell this guy was. He wears a fedora and has a neckbeard. Don't know what else to expect, but to be honest. TLDR, DM has no idea how stats in D&D works, gets offended, and kicks player who explains. He then tells me all about his recent circumcision, kicks a player for being annoying, and the game never even makes it to session 0. Oh my god, why? Why? Oh my... Okay, so to go back on the thing that I was talking about before, being limited to a certain reason does actually make sense to a certain degree, right? Like, for example, it's a post-apocalyptic world. The world isn't like, a very basic world that we understand. And not only that, even in basic worlds, being able to read and write is a luxury. It's not a guarantee, right? And that you are not going to be an unplayable character just because you can't read and write. That said, it seemed like none of this stuff was scaled properly from the get-go. One, to be frank, it's a post-apocalyptic setting, so chances are you might need higher stats than a typical D&D session to function properly, just because, of balancing purposes. It might not seem like it out of the gate, but you just need to take that into consideration. 2, you don't need to relate all of these things off of your stats in any capacity. Allow the role-playing to live and breathe. Allow all of that to matter. Just because you have a set number doesn't mean you're automatically a character that can't or shouldn't be able to do something. These are things to take into consideration. Another thing to take into consideration: don't talk about your circumcision. I'm just saying. Especially, don't try to make it seem like it's relevant to someone getting dental work. Oh, speaking of surgery, I had one of those. It wasn't a dental surgery, but it's pretty much the same thing. It's not the same thing. Don't talk about it. Especially the people that you're just meeting. Calm down. Calm down. So I hope you guys enjoyed this freaking crazy ride. If you did, please, once again, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit all the things. It helps with the whole YouTube thing. I'm trying to, get going on this. I'm super excited. Also, I go live once a week at Twitch at twitch.tv/Flaw Media TV. I also post a video once a day on TikTok, and you can watch all my quirky behavior there, also at Flaw Media TV. Or if you want some more of this awesome YouTube content, hit any of these little YouTube video buttons, watch some videos.